trying to.
Okay, everyone. We are calling our 7 p.m. public hearing to order, and we'll begin with roll call. Mr. David.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Councilor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Cortez.
Here.
Councilor Fay.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Here. Councilor McGinnis.
Here.
Councilor Poland.
Here.
Commissioner Spivak. Here. Councilor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Councilor Zdanowitz.
Here.
Alternate members, Sofian. Alternate member, Basanese.
Here.
Thank you. Okay. Actually, I am making a motion to adopt the minutes of meeting on November 14th. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the minutes of November 14th, 2023 are adopted. Because the consent calendar was after that, so I don't know why that was. Okay. Number 5, Mr. Winograd.
Without objection, I move it. Oh, no, we don't have to do any of that. We adopted it.
It was out of order. I apologize. So we will now go to number 6. Without objection, I move to receive the communication from Commissioner Basanese regarding parking. So we have received that. To Mr. Ledwith, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, town councilors and commissioners, and thank you for the letter. So what we propose to do, Madam Mayor, is to bring this subject to a Public Works Facilities and Sustainability Committee meeting, and we will talk through this subject at the committee level and then bring it back to a Special Services District meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your letter. So we look forward to hearing more. We will go now to number 8, new business. And we'll go presentation of preliminary budget for year 24-25 by district manager to transmission to West Hartford Town Clerk. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the proposed Special Services District budget can be found on page 16-9, and I did provide copies at everybody's table, so you don't have to go through the book. And it's pretty straightforward, as it is every year. You have revenue and other sources, resources at the top of the budget. You have our Special Services District tax of $1.7 million, parking revenue at approximately $2.4 million, parking violation revenue of about $100,000, and then interest income at $50,000, for total revenue and other resources of $4,262,586. Under expenditures, we have parking operations remaining steady at about $620,000. And then we have the transfer out line item of $3,642,250. This amount will be and we will use that money to fund our long-term debt obligation. I believe we have 2 more years on that obligation as we speak. And we will have a public hearing on April 9th here in the council chambers at 6:30 p.m. That's before a council meeting. And then we will adopt the Special Services District budget on April 24th back here in the council chambers at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Ledwith? So I think there is 1 more budget year that we have the long-term debt, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you're right. Fiscal year 26. Is it December of 26? April of 26? April of 26. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, correct.
Thank you. And I did just want to check that date. Okay, yes, the 24th is Wednesday. And please note that budget adoption is a Wednesday as opposed to a Tuesday because there's a Jewish holiday of Passover on Tuesday. Okay. All right. So we make a motion without objection to set the public hearing preliminary budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025 on April 9th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the motion is adopted. We have do we have any other staff reports?
We do not, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, no consent calendar, no staff reports, executive session. I'm sorry, yes, Commissioner.
For public comment, there was a gentleman here that wanted to make a public comment. It's on the list.
There is a public forum in the very beginning. I apologize that we went to approval of minutes. So could you, we will, without objection, we're changing the order and moving the public comment till this section. So is there any objection? Hearing none, okay, go ahead and make sure you state your name and address for the record. Thank you so much. Thought you were here to listen, not to comment. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Schneider. I live at 85 Memorial Road, Unit 408. And the reason I'm here is that back in December, my son was here and he's parked in the garage. He ended up staying overnight. And in the morning, I put him in for the second day, but I didn't get up very early, and the meter goes from 2 in the morning to 2 the next morning, so it was considered the second day, and I put him in then around 6:30, 7:30 when we got up in the morning for the second day. And when we went out to the car, he already got ticketed, and so he was kind of upset. And I was going to appeal, but he was very uncomfortable that I would go through that kind of a process. So I ended up just paying the penalty. And I was hoping that we could have another alternative arrangement so that residents would have some sort of a break. Either, I guess I could have paid several days in advance, but I wasn't sure that that was the right thing to do. And so they just wanted me to bring this up.
Thank you.
Okay, so I ended up paying for 2 days plus the fine, $20.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for checking in. I'm sure the town manager will take a look at this, and we'll see if there is a change that we can implement to accommodate. So I appreciate your coming. Sorry about the oversight and the public comment. I appreciate that. I appreciate your patience. Okay. So no executive session, and right. Without objection, I move that we adjourn. Is there any objection? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. Should I go over the picture or something? Oh, wow. All right. Well, I report to you, Tiffany.
That's the
I
first
know.
time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Okay. Yes, it is now 7:30. I am calling the Tuesday, March 12th, West Hartford Town Council meeting to order, 7:30. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Davidoff?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Counselor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Cortez.
Here.
Counselor Fay.
Present.
Counselor McGinnis.
Present.
Counselor Poland.
Here.
Counselor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Counselor Dzanowitz.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. We actually do have a proclamation tonight. This is Women's History Month. And I will read it. There's not a recipient, but all of us that either have women in our lives or are women or whatever, you can just take this in your heart. Women have influenced and advanced every facet of American life and culture. The strength, ingenuity, and spirit of our female leaders, innovators, and pioneers shape our nation's character, government, industry, families, and communities. During Women's History Month, we honor the women who have changed our nation and the world, and we reaffirm our commitment to supporting the next generation of female trailblazers and dreamers as they carry forward this distinguished legacy. And whereas the theme of Women's History Month 2024, Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, holds profound significance as it acknowledges and celebrates the invaluable contributions of women who have dedicated themselves to advocating for these principles in all aspects of society. And whereas this theme recognizes the invaluable contributions of women who have dedicated themselves in advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion, and women from all backgrounds united in their commitment to address systemic inequities, promote inclusive and just society, and have long been at the forefront of societal change. And whereas the courageous advocacy of women for practical goals such as equity, diversity, and inclusion serve as a beacon of inspiration for all individuals and communities. And whereas in 2024, we honor the women who have tirelessly worked to dismantle barriers, challenge prejudices, and create opportunities for all individuals regardless of their background, and attacks on diversity, equity, inclusion programs, training in our institutions. And whereas we strongly urge our communities and organizations to actively participate in celebrating the achievements of women who have championed contributions made by women, and proclaim the month of March 2024 as Women's History Month, and call upon all citizens to fight for equality and engage in programs, ceremonies, and activities that honor and celebrate the history, achievements, and numerous contributions of women. Thank you all. And we will go to number 3, public forum. We only have one item on the agenda, and that is the budget. So I don't think there's anybody in the audience to speak, but no one signed up, right? Okay. We will go to number 4, Mr. Winograd.
Without objection, I move that items 5A and 7B be placed on the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent calendar. Ms. Winograd?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There was a woman signed up, and I spoke with her, and she is coming at another meeting. Thank you. All right. Now we will go to, where are we? 7A, Mr. Ledwith. I think this is an introduction of 2024-2025 fiscal budget as proposed by the town manager and superintendent of schools. Mr. Winograd. Motion?
Yeah. Move to receive and set for public hearing on March 26, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. and on April 3rd, 2024 at 2 p.m. and to refer the capital improvement plan to Town Plan and Zoning Commission.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded, and Mr. Leavitt, I think it's all yours.
Thank you,
The floor is
Madam Mayor.
yours.
Good evening. Good evening, Town Council. It is an honor to be here this evening to present our fiscal year 25 budget.
Excuse me, Mr. Leavitt, I think, do we have to vote ahead of that, or can we vote after it? I thought we voted.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the vote would be after the presentation by the town manager.
Thank you.
Thank you again. It is an honor to be here this evening to present our fiscal year 25 budget, a budget that we feel strongly fosters a thriving West Hartford while building a safer, stronger, more sustainable community for the future. We will have the opportunity to highlight this theme throughout our budget deliberations starting this evening. The values and strategies proposed in this budget align with those that have been placed for several years and includes policies and actions that underscore strategic investments in current and future needs and support for innovative ways to deliver key services to maintain the health, safety, and quality of life for our growing community. This budget provides funding for initiatives that build on West Hartford's successes and addresses emerging issues, while promoting equity through programs to maximize West Hartford's affordability and accessibility, while also meeting short-term goals that maintain and strengthen current infrastructure. Now, before we move into the details of this budget, we feel it is important to talk through just some of what we accomplished this past year so that West Hartford continues to thrive and is through the vision of this town council that moves us forward every day to not just maintain being the premier community in Connecticut and beyond, but always keeping our focus to keep building on our past successes. Now, we have talked extensively about Vision Zero, having just adopted a West Hartford Vision Zero Plan 2024 resolution. As we know, we are the first town or city in the state of Connecticut to adopt Vision Zero formally and have committed $1 million in funds to transforming our streets for all users during the upcoming year and putting us well on the way to achieving 0 deaths and 0 serious injuries within 10 years. In growing our community, it was imperative for our town council that we provide more affordable options to our residents and those that would love to make West Hartford their home. This year, we added 150 new affordable housing units between projects like the Camelot at 900 Farmington, the L at 1244 North Main Street, and Fellowship Housing on Starkle Road. Not just providing affordable options for our residents, but more options in every part of town with access to public transportation, schools, and jobs. This council even went a step further in creating an affordable housing development program utilizing $6 million of ARPA funds, which may be the highest commitment of ARPA funds towards affordable housing statewide. In addition to our affordable housing program, this council also committed ARPA funds for our small business and nonprofit grant program, our wayfinding signage program, and our West Hartford Center Infrastructure Master Plan, programs that we continue to manage through this fiscal year. And while we focus on change and growth, we continue our work as a community towards becoming more sustainable. In addition to establishing a Sustainable West Hartford Commission, we successfully implemented a pay-as-you-throw food waste program in the Morley District and continue to work with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to roll out this pilot program town-wide, changing the way we address our statewide waste management crisis. And as the council knows, today we are one of 24 communities who are silver certified by Sustainable CT and one of 9 designated as climate leaders. By this summer, we will be in a position to apply for gold certification, and we will also be in a position to roll out our electric vehicle town-wide strategic plan, furthering our commitment to sustainability. And to top off all the great things we can be proud of, we also know that our children are receiving the best education possible, delivered by exceptional teachers and leaders As we all know, Conard and Hall are in the top 15 high schools in the state and the top 3% nationally. This council's vision and efforts to keep us moving forward has led to national recognition from both livability and niche. And just this past month, a piece in Yankee Magazine in the travel section came out. And I just want to take a moment to read the opening line of this travel article written by Kim Knox-Beckius. I've never been to Paris in the springtime, but I've been to West Hartford. Don't laugh, cry for me. Connecticut's own little slice of Europe is one of those, if you know, places that many travelers overlook. So an outstanding piece. I recommend everybody read it. Just highlighting, again, some of the accolades that we receive both locally and nationally on the great things that are happening here in town. All of this and more has led to unprecedented levels of investment and interest in our community, either with projects that the council has approved and are being constructed, like One Park, which is nearing completion, the Camelot, the Byline, 950 Trout Brook, or approved and soon-to-be constructed projects like Center Park Place right here on LaSalle and Arapahoe, Elmwood Lofts on New Britain Avenue, the L at 1244 North Main, and then proposed projects like the Jaden on New Park Avenue, which is a TOD project, and Heritage Park as well, which we had a public hearing last evening that's been rescheduled for April 15th. So now we will move into the heart of the budget. Sorry, excuse me, skipping ahead there. So as we all know, as I mentioned, we are recognized as one of the nation's premier communities, and our programs and services are essential to our quality of life, the education that we just talked about. Welcome our superintendent here this evening as well, public health and public safety, public works and facilities, and of course our library, leisure, and social services. And our capital improvement program enables us to invest strategically in our critical infrastructure, school security and air quality, roads, bridges, and stormwater, and parks and other recreational facilities. And we'll talk more about our CIP program as we move through. So we'll start with a summary of our general fund budget. And for fiscal year 25, we are recommending a 5.42% increase in town expenses to $131.5 million. Our superintendent of schools presented his budget last Tuesday evening and came in at $201 million, which is a 5.84% increase. And we are recommending a very modest 0.5% increase in our capital financing to $16.2 million. We are utilizing $1.8 million of bond premium to keep this number at this level. And as we move through this presentation, we will discuss some of the challenges we faced with this budget, which can be really drilled down to two primary challenges. One being our grand list growth, which we'll talk more about, and then the second being a contingency fund that we have set up for unsettled labor contracts. So here you can see our revenues and our expenses. So on the bottom here, you can see the wages and salaries are going up at 3.54%, about a $1.7 million increase. Our operating expenses are going up 4%, or $1.2 million. In this category, we have a $172,000 increase to replace outdated non-lethal weapons, or our TASER system. There's also a $249,000 increase related to trash and recycling increases, and then a $206,000 increase related to our town-wide radio system and license plate recognition camera system. So if we were not to have those three larger increases in our operating expenses, our operating budget would have increased about a little less than 2%, which is actually pretty good considering the consumer price index currently sits at around 2.5%. So kudos to our directors for their fine work on our operating budget. Our largest increase is found in our fringe fringe benefits, insurance, and bonded pension liability. And this, again, is attributed to a $1.5 million contingency account we set up for unsettled labor contracts. In addition, we have a $1.2 million increase attributed to our healthcare increase. And as the council knows, we do participate in the Connecticut State Partnership Plan, and we had budgeted about a 4% increase in healthcare costs. We have since been notified that that increase is 2%, so we'll have an opportunity to adjust our renewal, probably on our side for sure, and I think on the school side as well, we'll have that opportunity to adjust both of those line items before we adopt our final budget. Our pension costs are up around $900,000, and we continue to set aside funds for our post-employment obligations with an additional $400,000 for our retiree healthcare reserve fund, and again, highlights the council's commitment to prudent financial management with the establishment and commitment to building on that fund year after year. On the revenue side, the largest outlier here, you can see there is a intergovernmental increase of about $2.5 million. $2 million of that is attributed to the increase in educational cost sharing from the governor's office. So excellent news in receiving that adjustment to our ECS funding. We also had a slight increase of in our pilot grant as well of about $200,000. The other outlier I want to show you up top, so you see grand list growth at $239,000, and we discussed our 2023 grand list report at our most recent, or 2 Finance and Administration meetings ago, and all the projects that I just mentioned, and significant growth, significant economic development occurring in every corner of town. They're just not hitting at the right time this year. So that has had an impact on our grand list growth. Normally, you take out the last 2 years, we had, remember, we went through revaluation 2 years ago. We had a 12.2% increase in value. 2 years, we split that increase over, we phased that in over 2 years, 75% in the first year, 25% last year. But taking the revaluation year out of the process, we typically would see this number, we typically have about $37, $38, $39 million in grand list growth, which would generate $1.7 million in grand list growth tax revenue. So that has been a significant challenge for this budget and is attributing to our overall tax increase of 5.13% that we're presenting tonight. However, we will be working closely with our town council as well as with our colleagues on the Board of Education side as well to mitigate that increase as much as possible. So again, quick overview, 5.4% overall increase in expenditures, 5.42% in town services, 5.84% in education, and a modest 0.5% increase in capital financing while utilizing $1.8 million in bond premium. We are recommending an increase of 1.98 mils or 4.84% with this upcoming budget. And our motor vehicle mill rate will remain flat, as we know, at 32.46, remaining unchanged for the last 2 years. And again, the proposed tax increase on average of about 5.13%. Here we have the distribution of general fund revenue, and you can see here, sorry about that. Trying to hit the red laser here, 85.4% is a result of taxes to our residents. This doesn't change from year to year, and this distribution of fund revenue would not look any different among any city and town in the state of Connecticut, as it is our the primary source of revenue for all municipalities and cities in the state of Connecticut. Here, as I mentioned, the grand list this year, so we had a 0.3% increase in Real property of $19 million, a 6% increase or $13.4 million in personal property. And as we've also discussed, we had a dramatic decrease in our motor vehicle valuations, and values dropped $26.8 million or minus 4.35%. And as we discussed during the Finance and Administration Committee meeting, that is really a result of coming out of COVID. As we recall, the new car market, we had supply chain issues. Manufacturers weren't able to turn around new cars as quickly as they had in the past, and that drove the cost of used cars up dramatically, and that increased our motor vehicle grand list quite significantly as we came out of motor vehicles. So this is a correction this year. And it really hit the electric vehicle marketplace. We did have a chance to look through the value of Tesla, for example, in town, and the average decrease of Tesla EV decreased about 40% in town, and we have about 270 registered Teslas in West Hartford. So again, revenue outlook, municipal state aid. So we have our ECS grant, motor vehicle mill rate cap, LoSiP, the Mohegan grant, state pilot, town aid road grants for municipal projects, which we'll talk more about, as well as adult education. We had an increase, as I mentioned before, of $2.5 million, and again, $2 million of that is associated with our increase in our ECS grant, which is outstanding. Here's a highlight of our total state aid over the last 10 years, and you can see it was pretty steady in the low to mid 20s for many years, jumped up to $32.6 million in 2023. That's a result of the state freezing the motor vehicle mill rate at 32 and us receiving a grant from the state to offset that decrease. And then this year we jumped from 32 million up to $34 million, again related primarily to ECS. So here we'll get into our, again, a quick summary of our general fund expenditures, 5.42% on the town, 5.84% on the board, 0.5% in capital financing, overall increase of 5.4%. And here, the Board of Education makes up 58% of our total general fund expenditures. And on the town, we're at 38% and 4% for capital financing. This almost looks identical within a percentage point or so each and every year. It's also, if you were to, again, look at this pie chart across the state, you'd see a similar breakout among schools and municipalities around the state, which makes sense. We have 1,700 full-time employees on the school side, educating 9,200 of our students. So here we have our town main expenditure categories, wages and salary, making up the highest component at 39%, almost $51 million. Fringe benefits at 37% and $49 million. And then operating expenses at the lowest category at $31.1 million. Again, these numbers have increased over the years, but the percentages have remained relatively stable. And again, you total the 39 and the 37, you end up with 76% of our costs attributed to our people, and we're a people-driven business providing services to our community through all of the various disciplines of services that we provide our community here in West Hartford. Here we take a look at our general fund expenditures broken out by the highest level of departments, education being at 58%, non-department employee benefits, MDC, happy to report that MDC is again flat this year in their budget, and that's 17%. Public safety is essentially the second highest category at 10%. And then we have all of the departments at 6%. The next highest department would be Public Works. So among Public Works and Public Safety, that's where a significant amount of our general fund expenditures go towards the, safety and well-being of our community. Certainly highlighted over the last week, from a police and fire perspective. We had, since our last Public Safety Committee meeting last Wednesday, we've had two kitchen fires, one at a condominium complex on Kane, another one in an apartment building on Stevens. Our response time was within minutes, putting out both fires and preventing the spread of those fires to both of those large complexes. So again, highlighting the importance of public safety. And of course, we all saw the news release today where the police arrested the robbery suspect involved in the Big Y robbery from a couple of weeks ago. So here we have our general fund expenditures by, again, by category, broken out among all of our departments. But again, the highest flyers are education, public safety at 34 million, public works at 14 million, and then the rest of the departments at much lower levels. This exhibit highlights our pension liability. So our funded ratio, if you recall, 3 years ago now, we did issue pension obligation bonds to completely stabilize our pension plan, which it has done over the last several years. Our pension funded ratio moves from 93.1% last year to 93.5%, so it's moved up slightly. Our ADEC moves from $9.5 million down to $9.1 million. For an overall decrease of $353,000. And then our pension obligation debt service remains pretty stable at $17.6 million. So total pension liability moves downward slightly. Again, we are this year using, this town council had the vision to, we weren't the first to establish or issue pension obligation bonds, but we were the first to establish a pension obligation reserve fund to offset swings in our contributions from year to year. And you can see that we've used $1.1 million in reserve fund contributions to offset and mitigate the tax impact that our pension would have on our residents this year. In addition, we also issued 2 policy changes that the council made this year. The first was to increase the town's annual contribution to the ADEC from a 5% year-over-year increase to 8%. And in years when the ADEC is reduced from the prior year, we will level fund the liability and transfer excess funds back into the pension bond reserve fund to ensure that that fund remains in place and is not depleted prior to the pension obligations bonds being fully paid off. So again, some more information on our pension plan. $602 million is our actuarial liability. We have $563 million in assets, showing a funded ratio of 93.5%. Our discount rate did move up this year at the recommendation of our actuary from 6.25% to 6.5%. And we have 23 years remaining on our amortization for our pension plan. So again, key town expenditure drivers, regular payroll at $1.3 million, temporary at $264,000, some minor increases coming down. The exhibit, we do, as I mentioned, had the $1.2 million increase in our insurance and healthcare line item. Again, this is a number that we will be modifying as we move through budget deliberations. Pension liability of $927,000. And again, the largest outlier is the contingency for unsettled contracts. And as we've discussed, we've had a few that we've settled over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. We still have 3 more outstanding. We have our professional management, our emergency public safety dispatchers, our police contract expires on June 30th of this year, and our AFSCME contract expires this year, June 30th as well. Superintendent proposed his budget, as I mentioned, last Tuesday and called for an $11.1 million increase, 5.84% increase. Salaries increased by 5.5%. Employee benefits expenses increased by 6.3%. Transportation, tuition, and utilities increased by 7.3%. And seen a modest increase in our special education, probably more than modest, population. And the tuition line item alone under the superintendent's budget was about a $1.5 million increase to service students who are being outplaced. So that's a significant unexpected increase that the school district is dealing with this year. So we will work closely with the superintendent and his team to strike a balance between our budget and the needs of our community, while also ensuring that we always prepare to inspire and move all of our students moving forward in the upcoming fiscal year. Move on to our capital improvement plan. As we know, we have a significant infrastructure to maintain throughout town, and our 12-year capital improvement plan is our town council's very important commitment to maintaining that infrastructure. Our current 12-year CIP calls for an investment of $522 million in town and school facilities, transportation and infrastructure, including flood mitigation improvements. This investment will help make West Hartford safer and stronger with commitments to Vision Zero, our new Elmwood Community Center, Senior Center, Teen Center, and Library Center, as well as our infrastructure master plan and flood mitigation. Years 1 and 2 are the most critical because those are the years that you will be approving with this budget. And as you can see, we are committing $54 million during the upcoming fiscal year, and then $40.8 million in fiscal year 26. Here are some of our major projects we have scheduled for the upcoming 2 years. We have, as we've talked about, the LaSalle, the center infrastructure plan. So we have our LaSalle Road and Farmington Ave reconstruction. We have our flood mitigation improvements. We have our street reconstruction and resurfacing, and we have, again, our commitment to Vision Zero with $1 million committed to road safety improvements. Our goal is for our community to see immediate results from our Vision Zero action plan, and through the council's commitment to this line item, we will see that during the upcoming school year. Wolcott School security may be the last school that we are undergoing security modifications, and that is $2.5 million. We have about $3.8 million in interior school building improvements, and then we have our long-awaited elementary school air quality program with $11 million committed to years 1 and 2. Our school district has applied for an elementary school air quality grant through the state. We're hopeful to get some good news on that to help offset our air quality costs. And then under town building improvements, we have the Elmwood Community Center, Senior Center, Library, Teen Center, as I mentioned. So we have $5 million in year 2 to hire the construction manager. The largest, we will bond for the overall construction in year 3, and we will continue to work on that number, and as well as working with our local and federal delegation to obtain any grant funding that we may to offset the potential long-term costs. And then we have a Materials Solution Center where we've committed $1.7 million to assist our Director of Public Works, John Phillips, and his vision of repurposing our Brixton Street complex, as well as aligning that with our waste management vision as well. And then we have about $1.2 million in police department improvements upcoming for the upcoming fiscal year. So our revenues that we obtain Most of the revenues are through the issuance of general obligation bonds, about 84%. We use capital non-recurring account as well at $34.5 million, 6.6%. And then, of course, federal and state grants, $48.2 million, but we'll always be working to increase that number even beyond budget adoption. So the total outlay of $522 million over the next 12 years. And again, this is our capital improvement fund expenditure sources by category. Transportation and infrastructure at $166 million, 31% for education. Town buildings takes a jump up this over the 12-year plan with the addition of the Elmwood Community Center, and that jumps up to 24%. And then $10 million in general government operations and $30 million in rolling stock and miscellaneous equipment. So in closing, this budget does help us to foster a thriving West Hartford and as I mentioned at the beginning, build a safer and stronger, more sustainable community for the years ahead while balancing the unforeseen needs of our future. This budget captures our current financial state with an eye on the future, with continued strong economic development townwide, increased affordable housing options, and safer streets for all. I do want to thank our directors for their commitment and dedication to their roles all year round, always going above and beyond and doing what is best to serve our community, as well as for their hard work in producing this year's budget. Again, I'd highlight the operational budget, which is taking out those three categories. Our directors worked real hard at doing what we could as efficiently as possible from an operational standpoint. Of course, I want to give a big shout out to our budget team. As many folks know, this is Peter's last budget that he will be part of, as he will be retiring in May. But as Peter would always say, it always comes down to the hard work of Lisa Newton and Patty Lewis, who are with us this evening. Thank you both for being here. And then we have Erica Sledge and Angela Iaducciani in the background. And of course, nothing gets put together without Carrie Hupfer from an administrative standpoint. So a big shout out. And they've been working literally 7 days a week since January 1st. So I can't thank them enough for their hard work and getting us to where we are this evening, and then we will continue that hard work over the next 6 weeks, working with both the council and our community to do what we can to balance this budget as we move forward. We do have several meetings coming up, and it's going to be a very busy 6 weeks, so we'll be spending a lot of time together. We do have, tomorrow evening, we have a budget workshop. It's a virtual meeting, our Finance and Administration Committee meeting. We'll have Finance, IT, HR, Town Clerk's budget, Corporation Council, General Government, and then our Health District budget will be presented tomorrow evening. While that is happening, our Superintendent of Schools will be part of the Board of Education's first budget workshop right here in Council Chambers at 7 o'clock. On March 19th, we'll have our Human and Community Services Committee meeting, and we will go over the Leisure and Social Services budget as well as the library budget. March 20th, we have CPED virtually 8 a.m. in the morning. That evening, we will have another Finance and Administration Committee meeting where we will invite the Board of Education Finance Committee in to meet with our Finance Committee to discuss their budget. We will have our first public hearing on March 26th here in the council chambers at 6 p.m., followed by a town council meeting, regular scheduled town council meeting that evening. The Board of Education has a second hearing and workshop, or second workshop and public hearing on March 27th at 7 p.m. And then we will have the council's second public hearing on the afternoon of April 3rd at 2 p.m. We do have public safety budget workshop that morning at 8 a.m. And that evening, that's a busy day all around, we'll have another Public Works Facilities and Sustainability Budget Workshop on the evening of April 3rd. The Board of Education will adopt the superintendent's budget on April 4th, and we will have a regularly scheduled April 9th Town Council meeting preceded by a public hearing for the Special Services District budget, which was presented earlier this evening, and that'll be at 6:30 p.m. And then we will have adoption of both the Special Services District meeting on the 24th, as well as the Town Council budget adoption at 7:30 that evening. So a lot of work to take place over the next 6 weeks to work on both our budget as well as the superintendent's budget. And with that, I will pause and turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any clarifying questions that I can answer tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. So a couple of things. One, make sure you send the packet to everybody on the council. That would be helpful, I think. Right? For everybody? Yes, the slideshow.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we have plenty of this, but we want to make sure that we're a couple of I think clarifications or things that I know I want to see. You had mentioned the increase in motor vehicle and ECS. I'd like to see those separated out. You know, have the two components
Yep.
of state aid for that. I know I was a little confused on the pension piece, and if I'm confused, I would bet other people are too. You had mentioned a $900,000 pension contribution, and we saw a decrease of $300,000 for ADEC. So I just want to make sure what.
We can, and we'll clarify that when we go through committee, but we had an offset of expenses between the school district and the town, which resulted in a higher contribution for the town and a lower contribution for the Board of Education, but we can clarify all of that.
Okay,
during
thank you.
committee.
And I think just from, we have a lot to dig through, and and there's a lot here, and I know I just want to reemphasize the component. Well, obviously, we have the expenses, and we work on that very hard. What we don't work on during budget time is revenue, because we have very little we can do, right? We do that all year long. And we have been very committed to that. And I think many of us, not all of us at the table, understand the importance of grand list growth in producing revenue, because again, we're at 85% of our revenue is from property taxes. So we determine what we have available to fund those important things that make our community so great. So I just want to say that was a really challenging number that we have this year, unusually so. Not to say that a 1.7 is the panacea, and that works for us, and that's why we've been so focused on addressing that portion of that revenue portion of our budget in the right way that we think benefits the whole community. So many meetings. I want to thank the budget team. Peter, thank you for your incredible work, expertise, and commitment to the town. I'm grateful for all of your tremendous service, and the whole team. Lisa, Patty, you know, we rely on you very much, and we're so grateful. Superintendent, I'm just amazed. Thank you. This is your first, and this is your last. So it's interesting, but we're interested in learning more, and thank you for your tremendous work. Superintendent Basanese has been a part of the West Hartford school system for a long time, and we're so grateful for your service. And thinking ahead of all of the people at this table that have a tremendous amount of time commitment ahead of them to get us to a point where We try to balance it all. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. But we try our best to keep moving the community forward, invest in the things we can. As everyone will realize, it was first budget last year, there's not a lot of flexibility in this budget. So, and that's challenging. And that's the way Connecticut is structured, unfortunately, and fortunately in some ways. But that's what we have to deal with. And so we have to deal in our reality. So I encourage all of everybody at the table, if you have any ideas, please share. That will be great. All right. Any other questions or comments? And one final comment. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for your tremendous work and leadership, and we'll see a lot of you. Okay. We'll go to Ms. McGinnis first.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just had a clarification because I was writing and missed it. You were talking about the tax on motor vehicles. What was the average decrease of the Teslas?
It was 40% decrease.
Okay.
Yeah,
And there's 270?
about 270 registered Teslas in town.
And do we know, has the decreasing value on cars, has that leveled out at all? Do we know?
So
that,
it's,
or-
no, I think there'll be a little bit more coming potentially, but it'll depend on the overall market, and we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Ms. Blanks. Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Okay. All right. Very good. Any other, again, many questions. This is not our questions for the budget, just a couple clarifying things, but so much more to follow, every line item. So, yeah, anything else? No? All right. Then we will go to town manager's report. I think you probably have very little.
That was it, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. Corporation Counsel, anything?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, before you go to Corporation Council, can we get a vote on the
Oh,
the
yes,
motion,
good.
please?
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. That's why I think everybody's anxious to do it before, because we thought we'd forget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Corporation Counsel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no formal report, and we do not require an executive session this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any questions for Corporation Counsel? Okay, some announcements. Women Empowering Women in Small Business will take place on March 13th. This is a live stream event, and will be, this is a panel discussion with the Office of Economic Development and the Office of Equity Advancement. Conard High School presents Les Mis March 15th and 16th. It's an amazing show. 66th Annual Pops and Jazz, March 15, 16, 21, and 23. Also phenomenal show. Nutmeg State Orchid Society and Show, if you want a bit of spring, on the 16th and 17th, right here in Town Hall. Polka Dots Cool Kids Musical, March 17th at the JCC. My State of the Town address, my State of the Town will be a little different this year, March 18th at 5 p.m. at the Mandel JCC. And this will be filmed on WHCI, so anybody can view it free of charge. Identity theft and banking scams impacting older adults will take place at the Senior Center, Bishop's Corner Senior Center on March 19th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., with the presentation at 11 a.m. Registration is requested. Old adult strengthening program. That's a little, okay. I'd just say senior, yeah. Adult strengthening program, March 22nd from 11 to 12 at the Elmwood Community Center. And this will be partnered with the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District, very important. Teen Wellness Fair and Student Show, March 23rd, 1 to 4 at Hall High School. There'll be food, music activities, and a student art show. Promote health and wellness. And Fighting for America, Jews Military Service and the Reshaping of Religion, April 1st, will take place at the University of Hartford and at the Mortenson Library, and you can look at hartford.edu. Any other, Mr. Zdanowitz?
Just have an alibi for the Les Mis at Conard. Actually, they just decided today that Saturday there's going to be a live broadcast via Zoom or whatever it is. So if you can't make it, and you want to watch it at home, you can do that. And then also there's, West Hartford now has 5 new All-Americans, and they all come from the Hall High School, and they're all female athletes. So just figured we'd give a kudos to those.
Perfect and wonderful for Women's History Month, too. Thank you. That's great. Anything else? All right. With that, I think I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there any objection? See no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.